All right, now we're going to focus on the trade assistant, which for me is one of the most crucial tools within MetaTrader because I absolutely require it to manage my trading performance, or because I'm very flexible here concerning my trades. And here you can actually set up everything depending on the specific trading setup you're using. First, we'll take a look at where you can actually download the Trade Assistant. You can also read more about it on the website itself. You'll see exactly when you go to MQL5 and then under the Trade Assistant for MT5, or look into it, you'll see. So you can see it's very popular. It's sold very often here. Yeah, well, I truly believe it's an absolutely fantastic tool. I need it, as I've already said, for every single setup that I currently possess. So if you want it now for MetaTrader 5, you can take this link and then enter it right here. The 23415 is the article number, so to speak, for the MT5, and the 3750 is for the MT4. That way you'll come directly to the page, but otherwise you can also look around on the site. I'll also show you how you can get it in MetaTrader. All right, once you're here, it's important. Make sure this logo is here and that it's from this Kravchenko, Evgeniy Kravchenko or something. You will also see, I'll briefly show you his YouTube channel, and as I mentioned, how you can completely set it up and configure it specifically for us. You can then read through here exactly what it's capable of. So, as I mentioned, I genuinely think it's the best tool available on the market, the best trade assistant. I tried a few initially, but I've been using this particular one for a very long time now. And for example, you will have, if you download it just one time, then you will have 20 activations, which means you can use it on 20 different install 20 different things, MetaTrader, or install it 20 times if you're doing a fresh reinstallation. Yes, then you can also click through a bit here. As I mentioned, you will see short videos displayed here showing all the different settings you can adjust. You can, as I said, take a look at it beforehand and simply read through it. Alright, then let's take a look now at how it appears in MetaTrader, how you can actually get it there. Now let's also see here how it looks in MetaTrade. So you will then need to log in here, then you enter the Trade Assistant here. Under Market, make sure you are in the Market section and then type in Trade Assistant. It should then appear right here for you. And then you will be prompted to log into your account here. And you can then buy and install it. It's that simple in MetaTrader as well. Once you're logged in, you'll then buy it automatically. That means you will have a buy button here and you can then install it. All right, then I'll show you right now where exactly you can find the YouTube channel of the creator of this particular Trade Assistant. So this here is the YouTube channel of Evgeniy Kravchenko, the programmer behind the Trade Assistant. And here you'll find a whole range of different videos available. It's naturally a bit difficult now because a lot of the content here is written in Russian. You can now simply click through the videos section here, or you can just go to the playlists. That's how I usually do it. And then I simply watch the videos that are available here. And then I just quickly take a look at the videos here. Perhaps someone here understands Russian, or you copy it out and then paste it into a translator but essentially he shows you here exactly what all you can adjust and set up. So it's a really cool YouTube channel. Let me just say this now. If you want to know certain things, just click around a little bit. I myself also did it by partially clicking through, but I also, of course, printed out the description that was on the MQL5 website and read it through. But as I said, I will now show you some settings for the trade assistant, which I have made or which you can make, so that you at least have and understand the fundamental basics. But these tools can do even more than I currently use them for. And as I said, I do use a few things, and as I mentioned, I have them now. I'm not sure if I've explained everything I wanted to, but I do use quite a lot of them, very, very many. But you see, the trade assistant is very versatile, and it's truly worth every single euro, I can tell you that. So I can only recommend to every single one of you, use this, because it is the best tool. For me, it's the best tool in MetaTrader, no matter if it's version 4 or 5. And above all, for the management of trades and for all those other things, it is simply wonderful. So you have automated so much once again. You truly have your entire trade completely under control. You have your stop loss completely under control, because everything is automatically calculated for you, and so on and so on. So yes. Okay, then let's move on now to the MetaTrader platform, and I'll show you there what it actually looks like.
All right, let's take a look at the entire thing in MT5 now. You'll also see it's then exactly the same in MT4. The assistant is just as easy to configure.
Once you've opened your chart and brought in your trade assistant, it's really important that algo trading up here is active. What that means is there needs to be a green box here labeled algo trading, and then it will be active. If it's red here, then it's inactive. That means you can also turn it off. If you've opened a trade, for example, you can also close it. That must be active. This is how the control panel will appear. This means that you'll have every single adjustment option available to you right here. You can then click through here, of course, and also have certain things displayed to you. What's also very good here, you can also see the spread and the commission. That means it's also very good for trading. So you know exactly what you need to generate, so to speak, to be at zero, or also to pay very close attention to the spread. Yes. Well, let's take a look. What else do we have?
So up here you have the tab for under info. You'll find details only about the exchange rate, your account, and so on. Your personal information. Under trade, you now have the option to, for example, take screenshots, set up your alarms, and so forth. So all of that is located here under this particular tab.
Then over here, you're able to switch between risk and reward. This means you can specify here that you want a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio. You can choose to actively use this or not to use it actively. It also naturally has something to do with the fact that if it's active, your lots are calculated according to your capital. This means in this area you can basically adjust what risk reward you have and what percentage you want to trade. You can have the lots calculated or not. If you uncheck it, then you can now manually enter the lots. Down here, let's say 5 lots. With a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio, that means the risk in percentage terms is no longer being evaluated, and you now have a 5-lot position here, and if you go to the lines, you'll have a 2-to-1 with a 5-lot stake for each. when you go to calculate lot size, you will now see that 2% of your capital is automatically calculated again here. All right, that's now 10.5 lots with a CRV of 2 to 1. I usually set the CRV here in this way because for the calculation I use either a 1 to 1 or a 2 to 1 ratio, because I then usually, or actually almost always, take out the take profit again. Because we let the trade run, unless I say I have a fixed take profit of 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, then I naturally leave it in. Then I can of course always adjust that individually.
All right, so as I mentioned, the risk reward is located up here. This means that the calculation for these specific lines is positioned exactly as they are displayed right here. The lot calculation is there so that you can either manually input your lot sizes yourself, or if you prefer to use the automated risk calculation feature. And then when you actually click on these lines, you will then see this information right here.
So you have here now, let me bring it closer. For example, you'll automatically see when you move up. So these are essentially the baseline, let's put it that way. These are essentially the baselines. If you're currently in the course, you'd have an open sale position, you have a 2 to 1 risk reward ratio, and we have a take profit, which I'll show you later, at exactly 1. So if we were to open the trade here now, we would risk 2,279 euros, and the profit potential here would be 4,013, or rather the take profit would be at, our first take profit would be at 572 euros, where we would then take out partial profits. And we can then also see quite clearly here the lot size at how many points, as I said, the risk reward ratio and the total amount. So that's just very, very good. You can see again here, the SL is now at how many points? 234. Since we have a 1 to 1 ratio, the take profit must also be 234 here, because we take profit 1 at a 1 to 1 ratio. That means we would lose 2,279. This is 2%, 1.99, but still 2%. Here we've allocated 2% of our capital. You can see where the SL is positioned. You can see where the entry point is. You can see where the take profit would be placed. You can see the potential profit right here. So 3.5% would be the profit in our account if we manage to achieve a 2 to 1 ratio. You must of course always keep in mind and calculate this, because you're taking profit here. You naturally don't have the double take profit from this point here, because you're saying that you're taking a partial profit out right here. And then you also have here, as I mentioned, how many euros and also the take profit.
What else can you do with the lines here? I find that great because it's automatically calculated here. You see we have 2276, 2270. It always recalculates. We have 2280 here, so it always calculates the 2% no matter where you drag your SL. And take profit 1 always moves 1 to 1, and take profit 2 to 1.
I find this absolutely incredibly awesome, because you can genuinely quickly open a trade and you have truly rapid access to everything. And here, without having to calculate or know anything yourself, because even I don't always figure out how much 2% of something is. And it works with other tools naturally, but let's be honest, that costs a pittance. I believe it costs $50 right now. It was much more expensive back then. I think it once cost $100 or even more. But as I said, it's just part of it. Just for trading, I'd say no matter if you're on MT4 or MT5. Okay, then we'd say, as it is now, we'd place our take profit above this high, our SL above this high, and we'd now say sell or sell stop. In that case, you would sell, and you would then be in the trade. This is how it is right now. You can also clearly see here. Then take a look at the lots. No matter how far out we go, the lots are simply adjusted so that the same SL amount and the 2% are always present. And as I said, You can log all of this precisely in your trade reporting because you see exactly the points you have here. You see exactly what percentage you've gained here and so on. Alrighty then.
You can also observe here that we have sell, sell stop, sell limit, buy stop, and buy limit. You can either, for example, if you decide you only want to enter the market down here, choose sell.
And let's just say you're looking to enter the trade right here. Your stop loss is positioned quite a bit higher up there, and you'll automatically observe that it's moving towards a sell stop right here. And then you must also input a sell stop here. If you now move above the current price level, we have already learned what sell stops and limit orders are. If you go up here now, you can also place a limit order. You'll automatically see it changes to sell limit. You'd say your SL would then also be in this range. You see it's the same amount again. However, we now have a batch number of 18 lots here. And then you could also say now that you're truly entering the market right here, and you would then perhaps place your take profit further down below. But you see, if we drag it here, then the take profit is pulled along with the SL because they are linked. But that's not a problem either. You can, if you disable the risk reward here, so when it's light blue, everything that is dark blue is active. If you've now selected this or that, if you disable this here, then you can also adjust your take profit, for example. That means you can quickly set everything up here in a very short time. And I'm saying now my take profit would be right here down below, and we would have a take profit of 7% right now with a gain of 8,000 euros. And we would have our stop loss up here, it would be untouched. And yes, our first take profit would also be untouched. However, you can also move this one right here now if you say, okay, I only want my take profit, my first take profit, to be set at 2-to-1. And we will then also take a look at how that works with the entire break even and everything. If you've adjusted something, just click once to remove the lines, then once again to bring the lines back, and everything is reset and you have the same setup again. So this is the basic foundation here, what you can adjust here at the start. Let's move on. Comment. For the analysis then, so I'm happy to. You can actually save this preset. That means you just go here to experts, and then you simply go to the properties, and then you can save this here, for example, and then you can always load it again. And you can also store the whole thing then if you go to templates here, and then you simply say save as template. You can also save it as default, pause. Then when you open a new course here, you'll always have this set up ready. So you'll have to get used to it a bit and play around. But as I said, I'm explaining pretty much everything to you here. Yes, that's exactly how it is.
So let's take a look at this parameter here, or these parameters. As I said, M30 zones are used for the evaluation. You can enter this for everything, so that in TradeBuddy, you know exactly from the comments what kind of trade it was. Was it a scalp? Was it a zone trade? And so on.
And you can also then record this information in the trade reporting. So as I've already mentioned, there are several different ones here. As for variance, you'll have to look at that yourselves. What do we have here? As I mentioned, we then have here the lot number. Here you have the entry point, which you can input manually. Here you have the take profit, which you can manually input, or the stop loss, which you can also input. You'll notice that if you move something here, the numbers and the lots move along with it, but not the entry point. The entry point will move with you if you grab it here at the entry point. If you say, okay, from this point I want to go long, you could, for example. All right, so right here, if you click on this particular spot, you'll be able to switch between the short and long modes.
That means if you say, okay, I want to place a buy stop order here, I want to set my SL right below it and then enter a long trade here. Then just click here and you'll see everything adjusts automatically again, as I mentioned. And then you click on buy stop and you have a buy stop order.
If you were to click buy right now, it would immediately accept this stop loss along with the take profit level. So it would take this specific stop loss and you would enter into the trade position instantly. This means your entry would be executed right here at the current price, not at the previously selected stop order. Here again, it's the same principle. If you go down to this point, you'll have a limit order set. If you say, okay, I want to wait until it comes down here and then enter, that is, or then go long. Just click here once and you'll be back in the current mode. All right, so what that means is you are also able to specify the number of pips or points right here in this particular instance. So you have here, you can really say, okay, I want 250 points, for example, for my SL, and you'll have 500 points because you selected the 2-to-1 ratio up here. So then 500 points as your take profit. So that means you can choose between price and pips here. That's also very good. If you have fixed pips, you can save it like that. Or you simply say, I'll enter this, save it once, and then I have it set. So you see, this tool is absolutely fantastic. Because we mentioned earlier, I can switch this back and forth here. This R stands for what you have here. This turns around, and here you have an L. That means it stands for look, which means you engage the SL. You see now this SL moves along with it. If we proceed here, the SL also moves along. If we say we want to lock it down here, then you will see the SL remains unchanged. The euro amount doesn't change, which means it always stays the same, because despite everything, no matter where you go with your initial investment, you'll always have 2%. But you can also say then, okay, no matter what the situation is now, this is for example, if you really say, okay, the SL has to be here, I want to be up here to enter the market, no matter what type of order I am choosing, I would place a buy stop order, but the stop loss has to be placed here, and you can do exactly the same thing up here. This means you can also specify your take profit, that it should be located in this particular area. And now you see I'm only moving my take profit 1 and my entry point. This is also very cool, especially for my SL when I want to tempt him a little. All right then. So we've pretty much finished up the first page of this discussion. What that means is, even if you're currently in a trade, or let's say in TradingView, for example, you see your fixed stop loss level. I personally do that 99% of the time, or at least 90% of my trades. You see in the Trade Assistant, for example, in TradingView, for instance, where your stop loss is located because you've applied the FIBO tool at, let's just say right here in this specific area at 107468. What that means is we're going to move this to a specific location now. So now I'm going to input here 1.04768, and I have positioned my stop loss right here. What that implies is you should check on TradingView to see exactly where your stop loss is currently situated. You need to manually enter this value. And it fits perfectly. You can do the same with the entry, or you can simply move it like this here. You also see the numbers here, but I find this input method very good. And if you have a fixed SL, you just say, okay, mine are 250 points in euro US dollar. Then you enter that here and you have the same situation. Here there's also another field. And specifically, if you click here, you can close all the sell orders that you currently have open. You can also close all buy trades that you have open. You can close all of them regardless of whether they're sell or buy. No matter what you're in, you close everything. you can delete orders and you can instruct that all your trades be closed at 50% or at 25%. This means if you currently have 1, 2 or 3 trades open and they are performing well, you can then say, okay, I want to close all of them at 25% now. Or you can move them all to break even. This is also once again a cool, useful tool. Just when I say I need to leave the computer but everything's in profit, I say, okay, I'll go break even if I haven't set any take profits or break even. Or I say, I'll just close 25% of all my open positions. You shouldn't have more than 2 or 3 trades open simultaneously. Then I say, okay, they're all in profit, but I want to take some partial profits now. So I'll close 25% of each. That's partial profit. And then I'll move to break even. This is also once again a really powerful tool. So you just click right here in the center and you'll get it down below. And yeah. All right, so that would at least be the first page for us for the moment. This means that on this page we have now explained everything up to this point. I think that there shouldn't be any more questions left unanswered. You should be aware of all of this information. We will now continue by moving on to the next page, and here you can take a look at absolutely everything. Okay. I rarely need this page unless I delete my stop orders or limit orders or similar, but you can also here again, you can delete everything. You can then choose everything here that you theoretically might want. That means close the buy trades, close the sell trades, close out profits, all positions that are in profit, all positions that are in the red, close them all. And as I said, I have here, I don't really need that here right now. If I truly need something, I do it right here. You can then simply enter down here profit in percentage and so on. So I can't really show you that right now because I don't have any open trades and I don't want to open one up right now either. But yes, I suppose that's what we'll have to do. So, for example, if you were to activate the L function here, you're currently in a trade. Then you could, for instance, also choose to shift it and say, I'm closing this profit at these specific figures that you have entered here. But please just let yourselves, or simply try it out yourselves. If you're in the demo account, just try 2 or 3 trades and you'll see how this works. I rarely need it unless I have many stop orders or limit orders or whatever open, and then I close all of them. Or if I say they're all in profit and I have to leave the computer, then I say close all in profit or close all, and so on. So yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory and so on. We'll then move on to the settings, and specifically we'll start right here. We have, generally speaking, we have here now, you can select which risk calculation you currently have. You can select capital from the previous day, last week, last month, free margin, custom currency, percentage, so capital, account balance, and currency. I always have capital selected here. Selected, and you can enter a custom value here, where the custom value refers only to when you specifically choose that option. Otherwise, you always have funds, which always refers to what you currently have in your account. And then it always calculates that in real time. And there, as I mentioned, you can select whether you want it from the previous day or however you prefer. But I fundamentally always have 100% of my capital in here because I always want it to be based on the current capital. Here you can also find things like spread limits, split, order, lot split, and manage all symbols. You can save your own presets here, which is probably a very good idea. You configure these settings and then you simply save this specific preset that you have set up right here. That's also possible. Or as I said, you can also, under these settings, then we'll go through that again now and save it here. So you have several options. What's also interesting is up here.
Up here, you can select any of the symbols that you have listed within your market overview tab. This means, for instance, if you're currently viewing the Euro US dollar chart and you decide you want to see, for example, the GBP USD, you just select it and it will open the GBP USD right in the same window. Or if I want to look at the DAX, it will open that for you right here.
So this is also very practical. Theoretically, you only need one window open down here and you can also jump back and forth up here. And if you click on the left and right arrows here, then you simply move on. We're going to see that. So we're currently on the Euro US dollar. We have the AUD USD next. So we click on the next one and you'll see the AUD USD.
We'll move on to the next one, and that's the GBP USD. This way you can quickly jump back and forth between the tabs. Also very, very good. Yeah, as I said, I rarely set anything up here either. If you want to get into more detail on that, then most people won't need it. That's why I won't explain it now.
You can always come down here and click apply if you've adjusted something and wish to apply it to the current chart. Then just click apply and it will be applied right here on the current chart. All right, let's continue then. So I think everything here has now been fully explained. What's important for you is the risk calculation up here. You absolutely must set that. As I've said, I recommend using capital here because you'll always have your current capital selected.
All right, so let's proceed further. Taking profits in portions. We, for example, as I've already said, whenever it's dark blue, it's active. You can select here what you would like to take. Lot percent. Lot as a percentage. So
you want to take out 25% of your total lot size, and that's with a risk reward ratio of 1. That means here, this is referring to this one. I'll just move this up here so it doesn't always, or I'll go down a bit so it doesn't always move back and forth. What I also wanted to mention, you can, with a double click here, I can actually show you. A buy limit order with a double click. Okay, I just checked. That doesn't work anymore. It used to be that you could, with a double click on the respective order, I'd have to check that. It would directly open this order, but that doesn't work anymore. Let's see, maybe you can set that up. Back, as I said, you will then have your take profit set here. You can see with a 1-to-1 risk reward, you're taking out 2.32 lots. This is what it's referring to. You're taking out 25% of the total lot count. That's exactly 2.32 out of the 9.26 lots, and you're operating with a risk reward ratio of 1-to-1. This means that when you reach a 1-to-1 risk reward, you're taking out 25%. You can set this here to say, okay, you want multiple take profits. And you can certainly do the very same with SL. This means you can, even for your stop loss, take partial profits. Partial losses. That means you can also say, for example, if half of my trade moves in the opposite direction, you could also reduce the lot size here to scale down the position. We can enter here. For example, we want a take profit of 1 point or 0.7, which we often need. That's the 25%. Now we click apply and you'll see automatically it jumps down here. He's taking the 25% once more. That is of course the very same amount, the 2.32 lots, plus the 0.7 in terms of risk reward. He takes you out, so at 0.7. And that's how you can set it up. but you can also choose to proceed here again, saying, okay, I want to take my take profit at this peak. That's exactly at around 1 right now. That's not possible here, of course. If you say, okay, I want the old one back, then you go back to apply here. You simply click it once, then apply, and it comes right back down again. Yes, so completely flexible here and truly perfect. Especially when you open a new chart, these settings are preset. That means if you, for example, say that in a scalper, you always take out 25% at 1-to-1, then open the chart, set your SL, go to buy, and you're in. With the precise break-even point, you then set up with a 1-to-1 take profit with these 25% and all of that with just one click. Honestly, it's incredible, guys. As I've said, it's worth every single cent. You can also set here the lot size in percentage, so lot percent or just lots. You can also choose to use fixed lots. So here you would then specify how many lots it should open. Then you simply enter the fixed lots right here. But as I've mentioned, I always leave it like that. Or as I've said, you can also choose the lots that you say, okay, in this case it would be 25 lot here. We don't even have that much in it, but that, as I said, you can enter that here. And back here you can still adjust whether it does it automatically, how much you're taking here. You can try it out here again. You could say at 100 points, or if I say at 25 points, I always want to take my take profit, my first one, or at a specific price, then you can simply enter a price right here. You can hear, as I've mentioned, this doesn't change in this section. You really have to input it right here. Even if you select a price here, it always stays at 1. Then you would have to enter, for example, that you enter 1,077, or let's say 1,078.30. So the price here. Then we have 1.078. But as I said, that's just too complicated. But I'm just showing it to you. 0.07830. Then he would take your profit exactly here at 1,078.30. But yes, as I've already mentioned, that who even does that? That's simply too much input. So I always have it set up here. The risk reward in it, and that's what I always set because my break-even levels are always at 0.5, 0.7, 1, or 1.5, depending on what I trade. Yeah, as I said, points, auto, and change percent. Yeah, here you can also experiment again. As I said, I'm telling you my settings. I always have the first take profit in because it also relates to the break-even level, which we'll then also look at. Good. With the SL, you can also, I don't use it for example, but it would also be an option. All right, let's take a closer look now. Trailing stop, and then, as I've already mentioned, we have the trailing stop right here. I always keep that particular setting turned off by default, but you can then actively switch it on once you have successfully opened your trade. I will certainly demonstrate that to you later on. We're going to open up a small illustrative trade, and then I'll also show you all the different things you can still modify while the trades are active. But I'll demonstrate that to you in a moment. We're currently looking at the fundamental settings right here. So, well then, you can proceed to choose here precisely which kind of trailing stop you wish to implement. A trailing stop functions based on points. This implies you have the ability to select your starting threshold. For example, if you decide that for the euro-US dollar pair, the stop should only initiate once it reaches 25 points, rather than commencing directly from 0. You can choose the distance, that is the number of points where a minimum gap must be kept from the current rate. For example, if there are a certain number of points within it, it will maintain at least 20 points from the current rate. And for the step, you can also say how many steps the trailing stop should follow. So that means the distance is always like this. If, for example, 25 points is the starting point, you've entered 20 points here, and then you have a 1 point step increment. Then it will follow here. It will follow by 5 points so that you maintain the 20 point distance, and that's how it always continues. The next one is then trailing stop fractals.
I personally never use it. If you want to use that feature, you'll need to set a start time frame here again for it to do the fractal calculations. And the scan bar, as I've already mentioned, I never use.
Stop MA, that's already quite a bit more interesting. Here you can specify, for example, if you want the trailing stop on a 1 hour time frame using the 65 EMA. As I said, you can select all time frames here. As you can see, they are all predefined. You can enter it right here if you say you'd like to have a 50 period EMA. Here you can choose if you want the normal SMA, the EMA, or the linearly weighted one, or the smoothed one. You can also choose this, exponential. And you can also select the prices here, whether close, whether HL2 or whatever. And with that, you can also set the trailing stop here. If you now have 25 points in euro US dollar, I'm always using an even number like 25 points, but don't hold me to that.
It says, okay, from 25 points, I'll reach break even anyway. And as soon as I'm at break even, the trailing stop should activate. That means break even at 25 points and partial profit taking of 25%. And at these 25 points, the trailing stop MA then begins to operate on the specified time frame. Let's say we're in M30 and I say I want it that way in M32, then I'll use M30. Or I want to say, no, it should be a bit more lagging, even more so, then I say 1 hour. That means the calculation is then based on 1 hour. And then the EMA 50 with it.
And then it keeps pulling it after itself again and again, exactly where the EMA 50 is at this very moment. Then there's also SAR, parabolic SAR trailing stop. I never use this one either. That means if you're working with these, make sure to set them up like this, trailing stop ATR. As you're probably aware, in our trading tool, you'll find an ATR indicator. Unfortunately, you can't set this one up to be exactly like the one that I programmed. That means it functions a little bit differently, but it also works very well. Here you can also say again, okay, start in points, which specific time frame should it actually take? What time frame should it use? The coefficient. And you also have the high-low button here. So you can also try that out. Just open a trade once, ideally in your demo account. Do all of this in the demo account, please, when you test it, because you shouldn't lose any money. It's purely about the testing. Go ahead and open a trade. You can also in more. Then in the minute phase, you execute and adjust here. Then you will see, for example, how it trails. But the ATR is also quite useful. Then we have a stop at partial close, which means nothing other than he trails it. When take profit 1 has been successfully reached, he then moves the stop loss up to break even. And if take profit 2 is achieved, he subsequently moves it to take profit 1. Here you can select whether the stop loss changes when you hit take profit. If you have the price open right now, then you just leave it open. That means it won't automatically move your stop loss to break even. If you click him away from here, then you'll move into break even. That's another way you can do it. I'm open for business because I need my break even point. I have configured it differently here. That's why I have this active. If I really choose this now, that you don't trail it for me, because when I have the trade open, I say, okay, I'm more flexible with the break even point, because the break even point isn't always at 1 or at 0.7, often at 0.8, for example, because I've marked a certain point there in my trading. That's why I'm so active with this. But if you say, okay, you want to partially close it with a trailing stop, then you can simply click here and it will do that for you. And the last option that I usually employ is high-low previous bars. This means it calculates the values for you based on the candlesticks. The closing prices, the high prices, and where it then pulls along or catches up. This is quite difficult to explain right now. Here you'll also have to look again at how exactly it functions. I usually handle it this way. When I talk about distance in points, meaning, you know, the initial starting points, you'd say, okay, here at 0, for example. Because if I've taken profit now and I'm at my computer, then I activate it, or I simply enter here the specific points that are my take profit one or my break even level, and so on, and so on, and so on. Like I said, there are 1,000 options, and I won't explain them all now. I'm already explaining in detail how it works. You can choose the time frame. It's often the case that when I'm trading on the M30, I'll use the next larger time frame, which in this instance would be H1. If I'm operating on the M15, I often take the M30. So I have a small difference between the calculation. It works pretty well, but you can also say if you are in M30 that you adjust here in M30. You can then, of course, also re-enter the distance of the points, which is also very sensible, so it's not too close. That's also, again, a bit of testing, playing, depending on your trading style, what you have. It varies. All right, that's the trading stop. As I said, I leave it unchecked. I'll only enable this once my trades are open, but we'll see that later. And then we have others. Here's the break-even point in here. Here you have to adjust it like this because it can't be adjusted here, so that you here where you have achieved a break-even point in your overall risk-reward strategy. In this particular situation, you only have a single starting point and a designated profit point. These are exactly these two crucial points, and they are consistently measured in points. Well, I haven't found any option to change or reconfigure this. You see, you can also set up everything here once more and then save it, but we'll definitely take a closer look at that later. That means before you save this setup here, you simply need to come over here, go to risk reward, and then set it to 1. That means a 1-to-1 risk reward. Now you have the exact same thing as you have right here with this risk reward of 1. And you will then see, I'm going to open a buy stop order and then you'll see it. And here you can also set offset. That means once it reaches break even, how much profit should it already make. But you can also choose other options here, like points or risk reward. You can say, okay, if it goes to break even at 1-to-1, it should already be at 0.25. 0.25, so 25% will actually go into the risk reward ratio. This means you can also easily configure that. So everything here is fully adjustable. So anyone who doesn't have this particular tool is really to blame, especially considering the minimal money it costs. It's practically a gift, and it truly can accomplish a great deal. Or you can specify that the offset should directly relate to the spread and the commission. This means he would now take into account the spread and the commission. And if it's truly break even, for example, without any partial profit, you're already taking some profit out. But if you say you're only aiming for break even, then he calculates that you'll at least have the commission plus the spread covered. That means if you click this here, that would be 6 points in the offset in this particular case. This means with 6 points for the input you currently have, you would then be at 0. You can also choose to select that. I'm not doing it because, as I said, I'm already taking out 25% partial profit anyway, and those are always larger than the offset, so to speak. Okay.
So that pretty much covers everything for now. As mentioned, under info, you'll find settings like statistics and more. Just click on it. You'll also find all the details for the currency pair there.
What might also be quite interesting here to note is that you can also choose to hide the virtual pending orders, OCO orders, and SLTP. You can simply check that out in the YouTube videos.
What's also quite interesting to consider here is the trailing order, whether it's a stop or a limit, which you can define in points, for example. You could say, if you're looking to place a stop order right now,
you want to place a stop order right here now. For example, let's say you want to set a stop order for a short position. This means you're waiting for the price to come all the way down here, you know, or you are quite confident that the price will indeed come down here, but you don't know how high it will still go before it finally reverses. This is more of a gut feeling, and as I said, you'll need practice, but I find this very useful. I use it quite often, and specifically you can improve your entry point here. You'd say this would be my fixed stop loss. So let's assume we would place a stop order here. Or this is where I'd place my stop order. My stop loss is right here now.
And I want to initiate a short position now utilizing this specific stop loss range. So these are the key points. The trade should incorporate this stop loss. My take profit and all my other parameters will remain exactly the same. We also still have break even activated at a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. We currently have 25% of our partial profit here at 1, and I really want to get a more perfect entry point right now, because I don't want to keep watching how much further it goes up until I finally enter. And then I say, okay, trailing stop.
We have a stop order here, not a limit order, but a stop order. The same applies to limit orders as well. I always want my stop to be adjusted backwards. This means it will trail back from a specific point. He keeps trailing my stop order further and further, and eventually he triggers this stop order and activates my trade exactly as I've set it up here, but much further back at a better entry point. For this, however, you must be quite certain that the price will reverse precisely at a specific point.
Here again, you have the opportunity to place your SL exactly where you want it. And for example, we'll say we
are now moving into M1. I'll just check if we can manage to do this now. Let's take a closer look at this. We have here I want to have a stop order placed here in this area. Let's say my SL should be here, somewhere in this area, and we're saying, okay, 20 points. Let's see, what do we have here, for example? Much more. And we're setting the sell stop here at 2%. And now you've placed your sell stop order here, and now it automatically shifts this stop order back. It then adjusts it. You see, we have it now, it has moved it back. Exactly, just adjust it. We now only have 26 points. We were at 97 points previously, and now he's constantly trailing this stop order. And you see he also moves the stop loss after that. It's really a cool feature. I use it very, very often, even when I'm certain where my SL should be. And I have a perfect entry. This means he always maintains a 20-point gap to the current market rate after the candle closes. And theoretically, he's picking up here. We can take a look at this. We closed here. That means that should be 20 points. Exactly. We have the closing price of the candle here, and you see that was 20 points. It pushed it back up, and so we're getting closer and closer, and eventually we'll have the perfect entry. And with this, you're then able to make variations. Now we could also go ahead and say, for example, okay, I want to. So I think that's a really cool feature. You can do the same with a limit order, but you always have to make sure that when you're working like this, you must open either a stop or a sell limit here, and it will adjust. What this means is, if you have a stop order set up here, you shouldn't place a regular sell order or even a sell limit order. Instead, you must open a sell stop order. Then the system will execute it. And you can see this is truly a very cool feature. This way, you might find the perfect entry point, especially if you know your SL. He always adjusts the SL afterwards. This means you'll always have the same distance for your SL, but you'll simply have a much better entry. And because it wouldn't achieve anything if you said you would fix the SL right here in this area up top, and it then moves above that area. That's why you can't fix it. This means it always moves the SL with the same P, IP or point distance as you had it when opening the order. That makes perfect sense. And so you can then say, okay, you are opening a trade at the perfect time. I know I want to short. I know my SL should be in that range. If you keep going higher, your SL will be moved to a better position anyway. Because if you were to set your stop loss right here, for instance, but you actually enter the trade here, because this is where the 20 points would be, then your stop loss would be completely useless here. That's why it makes no sense to fix the stop loss. Or it's not even possible, because logically it just wouldn't make any sense. Pause. Or if at some point the entry price were up here, then the stop loss would be down here. That simply doesn't work. That's why it shifts. If the entry shifts over here, it shifts. So for example, we're entering right here. Here we have our SL. It shifts over to this point. This means that the SL also shifts the same distance away. The entry point shifts and the SL shifts along with it. And with that, you actually always maintain the same risk ratio. And most importantly, you have the exact same risk as you had right here. The only thing is you simply have a much better starting point. So I also make use of this very often to get myself a better entry point here automatically. So yes, this is actually the almost priceless, this trade assistant. As I've said, I'd gladly pay 1,000 or even 5,000 euros for it, because it simply takes so much work off my hands. And so we'll now take a look at the basic settings, and then I believe you'll know everything you need to know about the trade assistant. As I mentioned, please also take a look at the YouTube videos, and now we'll briefly take a look at the settings within this menu to show you what options you can configure. Because when you open this application for the very first time, it won't look like this on your screen, but quite different. And we'll just take a look at what I've set up here. But before that, we'll also look at the trade that I'm about to open now, and we'll examine how you can currently move everything, adjust everything while the trade is already running. Because I think that's still very important. So we're going to look at the basic settings now, and or perhaps let's first open a trade and then we'll explain how we're going to manage that particular trade. So now we have, we want to get into this trade here. I'm just going to take this out for testing purposes right now, and I'm saying we want oops. I'll take my own share for myself. You see what we have here. I'm actually in the live account. Alright, that means we now have a trade here that we want to open, which means let's just take it.
Commenter.
That means we would be taking a risk here now. Let's put it that way. 37 euros, for example. Okay, so that means we're saying now we're going long. We've got everything adjusted here. Here means we've configured all the settings and things that we want. The 2-to-1 ratio, for example, we have the we have here the 25% at a 1-to-1 risk reward we want to take. We have a trailing stop. Let's take that here. We're taking M30. The 25 distance works out. The 0 starting point is fine, but it's been deselected. And we've got our break-even point at 1-to-1, where we also take out our partial profit. And we're looking at 0 offset because, as I said, we actually want the spread and the commission to be covered by our 1-to-1 here now. Let's put it that way. And then what we're going to show you right here, and we don't have a stop here, no trailing stop active. All right, so that would be our initial entry setup. We're saying we're going long here now. And we're saying that our stop loss level should be positioned right here at the very bottom. And then we would say buy. All right, so that would have been our initial entry point. But of course, at this moment, we don't see anything here. But if we now click here on our buy order, then we can see here, for example, our take profit 1 and our break even point at 1. SL is at 0 when it breaks even, meaning it's below. That's exactly it. As I said, we've turned this on and set it up here. It automatically creates this for us, or it's automatically calculated. And we've got our break even point right here at a perfect 1-to-1. That's 1-to-1, specifically 331 points. And we have the risk reward one. All right, so our SL is actually the offset, and the SL itself is located right here. It's currently sitting at 0 points. If you were to enter 25 points here, for example, and then click apply, you'll see your SL would be at 25 points at €2.32. Of course, you always have to look at what commissions, what fees, and so on and so forth you're dealing with. As I mentioned, set it to 0 because I already assume that we will reach our take profit one. That means we then take €9.18 out of the trade in this particular case. And our take profit would then be at €51 here, €51.88 at 0.0%, 0.05% profit. That's also what you then enter into your trade reporting. Now, for example, you could enter this into your strategy reporting. You have opened a long position and you have the exact time for that. You only truly have your CRV once you have closed the position, your actual one.
So you can now enter all of this. All right, we can set things here now. If you click where the 3 dots are, we can still adjust everything. We can close the trade right now at this moment. Close at open sell.
We can currently move to break even. He then asks you once more, set break even SL to the opening price plus. This means you could then select the offset right here. So you can quickly move to break even here.
However, you also have the opportunity here to take partial profits and move to break even also. And once again here, what's important now with these 3 points is this is currently for the trade for your order that you have opened.
That means here you could move your stop loss to break even. You can choose to show or hide your SL and TP. It's already set up that way by default to close the position. You could now input the exact same value that you have right here. That means you could now specify 25% here and then click on close, and you would then take out 25% in the negative in this particular case because we are currently in the red. This means closing your position by percentage. You can click on edit right here. This means you can now adjust your take profit or your stop loss. You can also drag this down right here. Let's do it this way. Now, for example, look at the take profit up here. I'll set my take profit at, let's say, 1.0870. So right now when the trade is running, you can also input what you're seeing in TradingView right here for the take profit. But this only refers to the take profit and SL, not to the dial close function. So let's say we use 1.08570, or perhaps we take 1.08710, then you'll understand it better. 0.8710. When you click apply, you will now observe our take profit will be moving upwards. Exactly to 1.08710. This way you can also, for example, edit your take profit and stop loss afterwards. But when opening, make sure your stop loss is correct. because the calculation here is based percentage-wise on your account and on the amount, as I said.
All right, so here we have the trailing stop. We only activate this feature once we've reached our break-even point, I'd say. Okay, let's move on then. We'll talk about this in more detail later. For break-even, we have risk-reward set to 1. It's currently active, and our offset is 0.
Here again, we can select the same with spread and offset. And you see he's chosen these 6 points as a offset. And if we look here, we have commission or spread. In this case, nothing. But for commission, we have 5 and 500 cents. We have a Mickey Mouse trade here. And then we have here a 0.56. This means if you were to go break even now, without having taken any partial profit beforehand, then you can say, okay, we now have a 0 trade. That means we have no profit here, but also no loss. You can activate this here. As I said, that is now up to you. I always make sure I hit take profit 1. If I ever truly say, excuse me, I don't want to take my take profit at this point right now, so I have my take profit set further up here, and my stop loss, my break even is positioned down here. Then you can say, okay, I'll set this specific point in here now, and you'll have this in place so you don't make any loss. If you get stopped out at break even, you can still do that. That would be a possibility. Then we have partial exits. You can always add a take profit here using, you see, take profit 1 is already in place. Take profit 2, again, 25% to add, at which points risk reward or depending. We'll leave it as risk reward. So let's say now we've got, I want an additional, 25%, or let's just say, yes, another 25% at 1.5. This means that our take profit 2 will be placed up here somewhere at 1.5. We'll set it.
Take profit 2 is what you'll see, and you click on plus, and you'll notice with the risk reward of 1.5, an additional 25% will be taken out, which is another 0.03 lots, so to speak. You can also see here 25%, 0.3, 0.03 lots.
Once more, 0.03 lots are taken out, and your next take profit is here at 497 points. Then you can set another take profit, saying, okay, at the, I want another take profit. Again, 25%, meaning you've already taken out 75% from your trade, so to speak. Here too, more take profits are coming out, and you can see the final take profit is also getting smaller and smaller. We now only have 48.99. So that means up here, if he were to reach this point, he would have made 48.99 profit. And once more, we took out 75% with a risk reward ratio of 2 to 1. And that would be 18 euros 30 again for 0.03 lots. And that's how you can do it. That's how you can also do it in the SL. You could, for example, say here at 0.7, I want to just reduce an SL here, or to put it better, take something out. Let's say, okay, I want to take out 50% here. As I said, I wouldn't recommend that to you because you've managed your CRV based on that. But just so you see, that means I'll do this here, add it, and you see it would be 0.05 lot, 50%. We're currently in with a 0.10 lot, which means he would exit with 0.05 lot at a 0.7 risk reward ratio. That amounts to 10 euros and 78 cents. If you do not wish for this, simply deselect it and it will be removed. This is how you can handle it. Then you can choose colors right here. As I mentioned, you won't really need that. And you'll see the text that you currently have down below. You could also extract it from here and simply say test. And he would here have test as a comment in there. What else do we need to cover here? So let's go over the trailing stop once more. You can now select the specific type of trailing stop you prefer. Currently it's not active. As I mentioned, I want to activate it right now. As I mentioned, you can also move this here, move everything here. It always adapts. You can also manually move your take profit here. Let's say, for example, at 0.7, if we exit here, take profit will be exactly 1. And now you can say, okay, I want my trailing stop now. Either as a trailing stop with pips, as fractals, as a moving average, as average true range, as a partial close, or as a high-low previous bar, which means the candle before. That's why I always choose a different time. I don't always use the same time unit unless it's perhaps a very strong breakout candle. Then I say, okay, because it always trails the stop loss to the very last candle. That means it always follows very closely here. And if you have nothing in there, that's why you should also input a distance. If you're using at least the same time frame, so you're not quite so close to it, unless you want it to be that close. The starting point here would be 0, meaning as soon as I activate it now, it becomes active once the trade here moves into profit. That means if this first M30 candle were to close, it would trail my SL below this candle because our starting point is 0. Let's say, for example, we had 25 points right here. You understand, we would be at this very spot. He would already be starting to catch up somewhere. What I mean is, I would now suggest at this point, let's just say 100 points. We'll also say 100 points right here. What I mean is, I'm currently saying I want my trailing stop to be active. You can see it becomes active right here. Of course, you can't see that here. And we would have 100 points now if he were to wait. That means we can also have this displayed. We can see the points here. That means the trailing stop will become active here at 100 points. No matter if we're at break even or anything else. Now naturally, if he acts here at 100 points, he'd bring it right to break even. Theoretically, since we also have that 100-point distance. So he pulls it to break even here. And then you can say, okay, he's catching up now. If I had the 100 points, he follows him here. Let's put it this way. And then he waits until the next candle has closed. I'll show you this right now. For example, we have the closing price of the candle here, and this accounts for more than the points. Then you drag it over here, high-low calculation, which means below the low, which means it will be, this is precisely how it's calculated. And then he drags it all the way down to this specific spot. He then proceeds further along, and once more he drags it down to this particular location. And he continues moving on, pulling it down to this very same position again. If these were always 100 points here, let's take a closer look at this. Yes, there are more. But if we were to consider, for example, this particular candle right here, let's zoom in a little bit closer. We have this candle. Let's see, what's this candle at? 82 points. That means if this one closes now, it wouldn't trail up here because we have 100 points of distance. That means it keeps it at 100 points of distance. It's not trailing yet, or it's not trailing up to here because we don't have 100 points of distance here. Or rather, we have a... Yes, I believe that this has now been explained in an understandable way. This means that when you've opened your trade, you have these specific options available that you can adjust right here. And again, it's completely flexible, completely open. What more can I say? As I mentioned, it's simply a great tool. Really, really great tool. And you can always vary this while you have the trade open, everything. So now I'll show you how to set this up, because when you install it new, you'll find blue here, green here, red at the bottom, all sorts of settings. If you want it exactly as I have it, then you will see it now under the settings here.
Let's go ahead and configure this once more here into properties, where you can then save or load your settings. As I mentioned, you can save and load these configurations here, or set them up and save them as your default settings, including the layout, the time frame, and all other aspects. But here, you can adjust all of these parameters.
You can select up here whether you want to see it in points or multiplied by 10 or by 100, depending on your preference. That's entirely up to you now, depending on what you're trading and whether it's gold or the DAX index or whatever else you might be trading. This means you can enter a multiplier here, because if you, for example, trade Euro US dollar, you get points. And if you then set the multiplier for if you want to use it for the DAX, then you simply have to select the multiplier here so that the points will simply be multiplied. Then you'll have the risk reward, then you'll have the SL. This is precisely what you have here once more. Just a moment, I'm just going to quickly close this trade right here. Still open, so let's close it for now. And you have here whether you'd like the risk reward to be on or off. We've got this one set to on. Then you have the risk. This is what you set here, a 0.5, 1% or whatever it may be. You can enter take profit here, then it's take profit, SL and TP down here. If you're working with fixed points, you can enter that. Entry point is, yes, also for entering, but I usually leave it as is and just input it here as I need it. You can set a fixed lot size. If you don't have the lot calculation here, then you can enter, for example, one lot. Then there would always be one lot in here. As soon as you click calculate, it refers back to the risk based on your capital. Then you can enter the order comment, pause, that is to say, pause what should ultimately be placed inside as a comment. You can activate the lot calculation button, that's exactly the one. It's then set to on, then it's here, and this calculation is performed automatically. As soon as you switch it off, you'll have the fixed lot size again. What else do we have? Deviation point, I guess that's sounds, price button. This one, that it's active, that you can enter your prices here, that's still very good. Or if you want to enter the points here, you can then adjust that. You can set the risk button with plus minus here. You can leave it as is. You can still set the SLDB entry here. So you can simply, that's self-explanatory, I'd say. Here you can then adjust what I explained to you earlier, whether it's capital or balance, free margin or something like that. I always set the capital here as a percentage. You can then choose whether you want to trade or edit all symbols in one chart. Theoretically, you can just adopt them as I have them. Again, you can adjust all of this yourself. Here you'll also see the commission and spread once again. You can have this immediately entered into the system right here.
However, I tend to do this more individually. That's why everything here is set to off for me. The next thing we have then is the trailing stop. Here you can configure, once you are in the trade, what type of trailing stop you'd like to have displayed initially. You can always adjust it, you're aware of that, but you can now set it to false here. As mentioned, we don't enable it by default, but rather do that later on.
So we have here, I mostly trade with this one. This means it's fixed. You still have the choice here whether it calculates based on a new bar or by seconds. In this case, with this type of new bar, of course, otherwise you can enter the seconds here. So it would still be possible, but as I said, we have new bar in here. For start unit, you can say, okay, I don't want it at 0, but always at 100. And then you can also move it or rearrange it, better said. That's often the case when you're in a trade and then you join and suddenly it's at 0 and you want to adjust it immediately. And the time frame, you can set that as a permanent default. It's still variable. So when you open this, it will be displayed to you instantly. Then we have the drilling stop here, step distance. These are all the things I previously explained. You can adjust all of them right here. What might also be important here is the break-even parameter. I have this set to true, and I have the starting points here at 100 points with 0 profit included. As I said, unfortunately, you can't adjust the risk reward here. You can only set and save that then. That's why there are 100 points in here. Should it then be a DAX trade or something, then there are probably significantly more than 100 in here. Then there are probably 5,000 or 2,000 or who knows what else is in there. So it's not immediately in the entry area and pulls back right away. That's exactly the point of it. And then I always adjust it based on the risk reward ratio during the live trade or right here within this panel. All right, so over here we have the partial close option, meaning partial profits. Here we can easily adjust the risk reward ratio, and here we can set the lot size as a specific percentage. We definitely want to ensure that it's active, and we also want to enable the very first take profit level. This is precisely what you all saw just a moment ago.
We want to withdraw 25% at the take profit level at the initial take profit stage, closing a percentage of the position naturally if the percent close method has been selected.
And here we have the method levels for risk reward, and we have one of them available. This means that we have 25% partial profit taking when the risk reward ratio is set at 1 to 1. And we always keep this feature active as soon as we open a trade. The same would apply now for the partial close function, which we don't actually need in our specific situation. You can then determine where a screenshot, for instance, if you take one here where it will be stored, you can adjust that right here. You can also take an automatic screenshot but this is all there is to it now. You can set up your own hotkeys. This is all that I don't use. You can adjust the panel here. You can have the language automatically set here, but you can also manually predefine the language. Most of the time it's set according to what MetaTrader is configured for. Just like here with auto detect, the language will also be set. You can vary the X and Y axis, which means it's located somewhere around here. You can adjust the auto scale, meaning the size of the panel, the font, and how the panel should look. You could say that you'd like a black panel, then up here, the panel front itself up here is actually the screenshot. Here you can
things to take out and put in.
Have it fade in. You can take a screenshot here. As I've said, these are all settings that you simply have to try out for yourselves here. You can see, for example, the black panel color hat is black up here and the panel color background. This is what happens if we also set this to black, then everything in the background will turn completely black. You can certainly do that if you decide you prefer it that way. I actually find it quite well done just the way it is with how the colors are arranged inside. But you can, as I mentioned earlier, also set that up yourselves here. Oh, that's getting a bit brighter now. Okay, turquoise is very bright though. Anyway, picture it this way. What else is there? Here we have all the colors as far as the panel is concerned. That's also listed here, everything that relates to the panel. Then we have everything that pertains to the symbols. Here again, you're able to configure everything. For close tab, you can make adjustments. So right here, you can adjust the color of digits if positive. So you can actually set all sorts of different things here. You can take a screenshot of this right now if it happens to look different for you. Just follow along and set it up accordingly. You can also adjust the various buttons. So these are the buttons that you'll then open up right here. For alarms, you can even have a voice message announced whenever you get an alarm in all different time frames and so on. But I personally handle all of that, as I've mentioned, within TradingView. So then you have here the string options. Here you can also see for yourselves what's happening within the string options. Here again, you can choose to have displayed what you would like to see shown here, for example, when you open a trade. This all refers to these specific parameters. You'll then also see here exactly how that looks. You can simply click your way through here, or you can set it up immediately just as I have it configured here. Make sure to pause here repeatedly and adjust it to match these settings, because I honestly can't tell you how it's set up by default or what the standard configuration is. Dashboard positions is still here now. The lines, pause. Regarding these lines, I really have to say something. You certainly have different settings, because if you have that built in by default and you open these lines here, for example, then you have this colored red, this colored green. The font here will be, I believe, dark blue. The point here, I think, is then yellow or something of that sort. And you can then easily set that up here in these specific parameters.
These are precisely the parameters that you'll find right here down below under lines, and again, under lines specifically, as you can see. For instance, right now, the range deep color setting is currently deactivated. This particular one here would represent the green range, which then becomes green, and the range SL color will then appear in red.
But I don't think you need that. You can see here where the entry, exit, and everything is. And then you can adjust the lines here. The block text color here is white, for example. The line of partial close is yellow. That's this line right here. You can see it, this yellow line. It's then pulled along with it here so that it is show line in all charts. We don't really need, theoretically speaking. Text color with partial close. Okay, so this is now the one that this color, the black color setting, is now here, always displayed within the block. The green block is for buy and red for sell. This means if you were to change this, for example, if I set the block color to blue instead of green, it would be blue here, not green. But this way, you immediately see if you're going long or short. But you can configure all of these things yourself. Here you can set dashed lines, how thick these lines are, and so on. These are essentially my basic settings that I currently use, and everything else I then handle here in the panel. As I said, you can save this panel here, save it, and then say, okay, for the M30 zones, I have my own specific setup. For the M30 zones in the DAX, for example, I have a dedicated one because I've adjusted the point count and so on and so forth. I think by now you know almost everything this unit can do and what you can achieve with it. Otherwise, you can always check out the videos on YouTube again. You'll find a few more parameters there, but I think for 90% you now know what the panel can do, what you can set, and what you should do with it. And you should, as I said, everyone get this panel and check it out or try a bit in the demo account to see what the best settings are, or perhaps what your best trailing stop is if you're using an automatic trailing stop here, and so on. As I mentioned, you also have alarm features and so forth. You can take screenshots of your entries, exits, and so on. So everything's completely open. You can set everything up. You're pretty quick with this trade assistant. You can work precisely and so on. So yes, that's all about the trade assistant, and we'll see in the next video, or we'll talk next video.